We made this.
Welcome to another episode of CHUCKYVISION, the podcast about Child's Play, Chucky, doll-related horror shit, and this week, episode 6 of series 3 of the Chucky TV series. My name's Mark Adams, I am your host today, and with me at this time, unsurprisingly, is Devon Elson. Hello, Dev.
Smooth pivot there. Yes, that's me as always. Hello, everyone.
Hi. So yeah, we're talking about Panic Room Season 3, Episode 6. And we haven't actually done Chucky news this year, really. But I haven't found any Chucky news. Have you found any Chucky news, Dev?
Not news. I found little interview snippets here and there. I don't think they're necessary to talk about right now. Nothing breaking news. I can save those for our wrap up. Yeah. And I think we talked about the movie, the fact that he's, pottering on with a movie idea. We talked about that, I think, one of the trailer breakdowns.
Yeah.
So no news on that.
Well, I mean, the movie hasn't been picked up, and theoretically, Series 4 of Chucky hasn't been picked up either.
He has said that. It's not been officially picked up yet.
But I'm not, paranoid like I was with Season 2. I think, if this is the last season, we've had a great run. If it's not, that's really cool as well. And I don't really understand why we were so panicky, because the reality is, at the end of Season 2, we'd got 2 great seasons of telly. I guess I just want more, obviously, but I'm not quite as panicky as I was the last time.
I was never panicky, and I feel like that was definitely a real case of real world versus Twitter world, where everyone was panicking and frantic, wanting that green light every single day. And it wasn't too dissimilar from the Season 2 green light, I feel. The Season 3 green light was just, they're not going to announce it immediately right after the season. They can announce it months later. I was fine waiting. It seems everyone else was just a little bit impatient.
Yeah, and I mean, there are shows out there where there is a fan base that really want a new season, and it ain't happening after a certain amount of time. But that certain amount of time is usually about, 3 to 6 months? If you haven't had announcements 3 to 6 months after the end of a season, you can pretty much assume that you ain't getting anything new. But the panic at the end of Season 2, I don't really know why we did it.
Yeah, and then we had this wait with the hiatus, and I don't think that was a problem either. I think they dealt with that pretty promptly, as prompt as they could.
I mean, that's the weird thing about Season 3, isn't it? That it's 2 tiny seasons, theoretically. I don't think, even if they do have a Season 4, we'll have anything until 2025 now.
Yeah, we did discuss that, whether or not they could double up. They could do this and do Season 4 in the same year. It doesn't seem like they can, which I'm okay with. Don't rush an entire season just because you can, if they give you the green light. I don't mind them taking a year to get it done properly.
Yeah, and there's lots of specials for us to do in between time.
Mm-hmm. Before we get into episode 6, Panic Room, I do want to say tiny little thing, not Chucky news, but something we forgot last time because we were just so excited to get back into it. Episode 5 was called Death Becomes Her. We didn't drop that title at the start.
No.
An interesting one, yeah. The titles for these 4 episodes are all movie titles. And the last one, people online were a little bit confused at. I've seen the Robert Zemeckis film, Death Becomes Her. It's a really fun film. I think that if we are going to cover all the movies at some point, all the movie references.
That's Chucky Vision news, that we're going to look at all the movies that have had movie title names in the TV series. That's not a massive priority for us, but it's definitely something we're going to do.
But Death Becomes a great film.
Isn't it?
Odd reference. Because doesn't that just feel like a Tiffany title? I don't know what that has to do with Chucky. I mean, who is the her in Death Becomes Her?
Yeah. I did think it was an odd title, because it's a new title. The projected titles, that wasn't that. It was something about anger, depression, and something else.
That is very true. Yeah, that got changed. Interesting. I think we'll have to wait until we get a little interview from Don to explain who the her is. Is it Charlotte? Maybe? I don't know. Panic Room is a little bit clearer here. Credits, something we were too excited. We skipped over it. Both episode 5 and episode 6 are directed by Samir Rahem and Christopher Sues. Last episode was written by Mancini, Nick Ziegler, and Amanda Blanchard. Now, interestingly, this episode is only credited to Don Mancini as the writer, and I feel that comes across in these 2 episodes. Episode 5 was great, a great comeback to Chucky, but we said, in a good way, there was a lot of things going on. Many different character catch-ups, lots of little plot lines all going at the same time. It was a very busy episode, and this is a very straightforward, focused, but edge of your seat storytelling. This is one concept.
And I think the reality is Don Mancini was always going to be the only writer for this episode, because, well, a certain thing happens that we'll talk about at the end of the episode. It's pretty monumental within the Chucky lore, this episode. I wouldn't say there's ever a throwaway episode of the TV series. It's always going at 100 miles an hour. But this particular episode has a monumental moment, and no wonder this one was just on Mancini.
And I think it shows. I love all the other writers, but I think it shows here that this feels almost like just a movie at sometimes. It's one idea, them trying to cover up the murder and trying to deal with this, and it's such a prolonged suspense that it's it reminds me of the Chucky movies, and it makes me confident that, oh yeah, after 3 seasons, Don could easily write another Chucky movie. Yeah. Because this prolonged suspense is still so good.
You're right. None of the side plots appear whatsoever. We don't see anything to do with Nika, anything to do with Tiffany, anything to do with anyone who wasn't essentially in the White House in this episode. And I think that's significant. You're right. This is very much like a 40-minute movie.
It's a streamlining episode, which is what's important with those divergent threads. The three main threads we have is Joseph and Henry, the president himself. We've got Charlotte and Price with their little side adventure. And then we have the trio. That was 4 divergent threads in season 3. And they've all come together. And they come together so fluently. It works how well they come together.
Yeah. Right, let's get into it. The previously gives you mainly what happened in the previous episode, but also some little tidbits. But again, it highlights the sex. I'm sorry, Dev. 1 or 2 of these 2 are going to be dead. It's so portentous. Or it's taking the piss portentous, I suppose.
Don did very much talk about that in an interview. I don't have the quote with me. He didn't use the parallel to Scream, but he said, it was a horror trope that they've had sex and now they are in real danger as far as horror movies go.
Yeah. Then we've got a scene where we have Henry and Chucky. Chucky is in a wheelchair, and I don't know about you, but for me, that image of Chucky in a wheelchair, I was like, whoa, that's fucking iconic.
People are definitely going to be. But first off, I can't imagine how expensive these dolls are going to be, because some studio is going to put out the old Chucky doll, but it's so much more detailed than any other Chucky. It's going to be so expensive, and then also, it's going to have to come with a wheelchair accessory within this year. People are going to have. People are going to either have bought that or they are going to have made it themselves. We are going to see that in super fans' houses.
My friend Dan has got quite the collection of Chucky dolls. He's got the Bride and various versions. And I can see him very much acquiring one of these. And that will make me smile if he does. And Yeah, we get, obviously, who's Chucky from Henry, because he still believes that he's his brother, but that is very much a different story by the end of the episode.
We touched upon this storyline last week with Henry and how he's going through this tragedy because he believes this is Joseph. And it's really nail on the head here. Like, let's address it. It's so sad when he says, like, I'll never let you go again, Joseph.
And it really does feel like this scene emphasises the nasty manipulation of a vulnerable child by Chucky. We've seen a lot of kind of almost lovable Chucky in the TV series, but this is fundamental evil motherfucker Chucky. And it's nice to get that reminder occasionally because he is kind of a culty figure, isn't he?
Yeah, he is very much using Henry here, and it's very manipulative, very toxic. It's horrible. It's sad. It's very sad what he's doing.
Yeah. So, Chucky titles, and the logo is made from nuclear bomb drops. Oh boy.
These tiles just keep getting cooler and cooler. Just so awesome.
I think we're going to struggle with our polls later on this year with which one's the best.
Yeah, they're going to be real tight, they are.
But yeah, I am going to do some polls between this episode and the next episode. We've got 2 episodes in the season left, and I want to see people's predictions for who is going to live, who is going to die, who is going to come back, and all of that tomfoolery. So I'll be doing some Twitter polls in the next few days for that. Get your eyes onto our Twitter, get voting, because we do enjoy those polls as a part of our season roundup here on CHUCKYVISION. So that will be what we're doing this week, and then at the end of the season we'll be doing some more polls, and both of those sets of polls will be looked at in our roundup episode in mid-May. Anyway, so Charlotte's grief is very much explored in the next scene, and holy shit, big love to Lara Jean. I'm going to butcher her surname, Chorostecki.
Yeah.
What a fucking actor. She is a revelation in this episode, I thought. This is a really sensitive matter and a really, really important thing to be looking at. And if she'd been shit, it would have absolutely ruined it, but she was fucking great.
No, she's had a few really, really good scenes this season. She was great in season 2 as the sister. It was not an emotional role. That was a comedy role. And she was very good in it. She was very funny as this kind of demented sister working with Chucky. But here, it's a completely different role, which is a great example of what Don Mancini does with actors, is that he gives them these really different chances every time he rehires them. You know, I agree with Michael Frew when he said that he had to do auditions for every season, because they are completely different characters that require completely different acting talents. And these last couple episodes, dealing with everything and coming to terms with the lunacy of the Chucky law and coming to grips with what's happening with her family, a real humanity to what is kind of a ridiculous story, but she is really acting out the horror here. Even though Mancini still gets to throw in those really on the nose lines like "a ghost ripped my husband's face apart."
And I do think what's really interesting is this character wouldn't have been a character I thought would have had one of the meatiest roles in the season. And by this point, she's probably more important than the president.
Yeah, we all assumed, oh, Devon Sawa, he's back again. He's the president. The president is the most important man in the world. He would be, I don't know, the lead. And it's really interesting how he subverted that expectation with the president almost being a plot point. You know, he's not really a character himself. You get some good scenes with Devon Sawa as the president, but yeah, it's really interesting that it seems like Don is like, and he may have said this in an interview, I'm just inferring, but it definitely seems like this is like kind of a parallel to Child's Play. You know, the single mother looking after the young boy. It's like Karen and Andy again. And it's nice that he's getting to play with that pairing again.
Yeah.
Because it's like, you know, Karen is the main character of Child's Play and great actress, great performance, but that is kind of, you know, forgotten. The wealth of Chucky content we've had. So after that, and now it's like, yeah, you know what? That is a really important role, the single mother, and he's getting to explore that again.
And then we've got Price being, for want of a better word, realistic. And then a little bit later on, he's blackmailing her. And holy crap, this really does give you the darkness of behind the scenes in American politics, doesn't it?
Yeah, Price is a really fascinating character here because he's not wrong. He is handling this professionally, which is his job. And to have the first wife and her children run out of the White House and go to Chicago, that screams to the country that something is wrong. And again, this is, I think, multiple writers could have handled this just as well, I think. But, I think it helps that Mancini had just his hands on the keyboard here, that he was just telling the story, because, it's a very complicated scene of them two, because they're both right but it's like emotional versus pragmatic. Who's more right?
He's employed to be a bastard. He's employed to be protective in a very different way to the protection of her kids that you see from Charlotte. It's really, really fascinating to watch these two characters doing the best they can in their situation. And considering they were thick as thieves a couple of episodes ago, it's really good to see the conflict and how that developed. And just these two, the characters and the actors playing them, fucking great.
Oh, yeah. There was that one moment, though, and it's, I guess because of the drama, it's for the drama, the horribleness of it, of them cleaning up the room, which is not just the president's body, but also, like, the personal effects of Joseph. That was Joseph's room. Yeah. So she's losing everything because of this. And I do think, like, come on, Price, why did you leave her alone like that? Like, at least be there. Because he just keeps dipping in and out. But I think, I said something to that point where whenever he's not on screen, it seems like he's not doing anything, but clearly he is.
Yes. So moving on, I am going to use the phrase consummating your relationship again and again and again. It's so polite yet visceral. I fucking love it. Consummated your relationship. It means fucking death. It means they had sex. It means that one of them inserted his penis into the other one.
Yeah, and she, we had the other great line of Jake, you can tell me about the sex later.
What a brilliant scene this is. It's friends that are genuinely friends now after were put in a situation together, and she can give them that kind of friendly sass, that, for want of a better phrase, bants. And I really enjoyed it. It shows character development as a unit, as well as specifically for just Lexi. And she ain't wrong about Caroline either. And what human doesn't get distracted by sex and then realise, shit, I was supposed to do this? It just feels like the stakes are a little bit higher here than I forgot to do the washing up because I was bumming.
Yeah, everyone gets a moment to shine in this. But I think, the two main stars are, Charlotte and Lexi comes to surprise here. She really comes to the forefront. It's a really interesting dilemma that we didn't even consider last week when we talked about this. I don't think anyone on Twitter discussed this, but her side of things, where it's like, oh yeah, that's all well and good that Chucky's dying of, quote unquote natural causes. He's dying properly, but we won't know where Caroline is after that. That's a really good scene where, this is a nice moment between the three, where they do get on the same page, and there are, as you say, bants. But I do love that moment from her. It's all well and good that those two get everything they want, but then, she has this other thing. She wants her goddamn sister back.
I mean, that is just a minor detail, that her sister is missing and being manipulated by evil people. But it's interesting that this brings up a discussion where Chucky has essentially abandoned Caroline. Where is she? And why doesn't he give a shit about her anymore? Because it was implied earlier on that he actually had a fondness for her, wasn't it? And that's kind of gone on the wayside.
I didn't see that so much as him abandoning her. I think they said their quote-unquote goodbye for now. They knew he was going to be there for a while because he had to do this mission. I think Caroline is biding her time, doing what she has to be. I think there'll definitely be a catch-up. He's been on the phone with Tiffany. He's probably been on the phone with Caroline as well, and we might see that when that plot line comes along. I was going to mention it up later, but yeah, it definitely seems, on the note of Caroline, that we'll have the same as season 2, where a lot of the Catholic plot lines all wrapped up in episode 7, and then we got that Christmas episode. It definitely seems that with the pace of this episode and what's happening, next episode will be all White House stuff, all seance stuff. And then episode 8 will be the John Waters coming back as the Good Guys creator.
You think maybe we might even get a cliffhanger then?
No, well, there'll be some kind of cliffhanger, tease for season 4, but I think I think next episode is going to be a lot of crazy stuff and a lot of resolutions for the White House stuff, but then I think we're going to get a real big focus on the trio again in the last episode, but it's not going to be White House centric.
Interesting. I hadn't really thought about it. So, we then have a scene where the family are eating round a table, or what's left of it, because their dads did. And I really like how Grant is trying with Henry.
Yeah.
And the idea of makeup being the reason why Chucky's old and why it's accepted, that's fascinating, because I do feel like that's kind of a nod to queer culture, because, drag queen makeup and making up people to the point where you can look completely different is something that I do feel's come certainly into popular culture with RuPaul's Drag Race. And that's got to be where he's got it from, because, queer man watching queer telly. But it's a really nice workaround, I thought.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, I think that was the only way he could excuse Chucky looking like that. It's a really awkward scene with Chucky being brought up to the table, looking how he does. I guess there's no other way around explaining it.
But I don't think that would have worked, let's say, 10 years ago, when RuPaul's Drag Race was in its infancy. Whereas now, kind of that level of makeup is almost like something that people accept.
Yeah.
And I really like how Grant tries with his brother at this scene.
Yeah, it's a nice moment between them. Because we don't have many of those in season 3 because of everything going on. So it's a really nice reminder that they are brothers and he is trying to connect with Henry.
Yeah, but also, again, this scene is another exploration into the absolute trauma that Charlotte's going through. And we know more than the characters do in this particular moment. And that's a difficult watch, actually.
Yeah, a lot of these scenes where all the characters come together, it's really kind of horrible, yeah, for lack of better words. Because she's really going through it. Her breaking it down in the vaguest way possible to Henry, that sometimes grown up have nightmares too. That's just, a really tragic line. It reminded me of, especially the scenes later when the trio come into it as well, what Charlotte is going through. It reminded me, this is like an emotional inverse of the murder mystery episode with Tiffany.
Right.
Except, whereas that, because Tiffany, was covering up a murder, covering up a dead body, and then everyone else around it was, in the dark about it. But whereas that was played for comedy, this is played for tragedy.
Yeah, that's an interesting way of looking at it. Then, Dev, is this character 5, 6, Randall Jenkins, the president's double?
Oh my god, yeah. Oh, he's back again.
How did we not predict this? When you think about it, that's a thing.
Can't believe it.
Maybe not so much in America, but certainly like dictators in other countries where they've had doubles. But yeah, Randall Jenkins, is that character 6 now for Devon Sawa?
Let's see, we've got the twins in season 1, we've got the priest in season 2, we've got the president, so this is character 5, yeah.
Only 5. So we're going to see another. I will be very surprised if we don't see another Devon Sawa death.
5 times in 3 seasons.
Well, exactly. And I think it's getting to the point where no one will ever be able to catch up. It's a bit like Bruno Sammartino in the wrestling. As much as you think someone else might catch up eventually, it's never going to happen. But yeah, how did we not see that coming? When you think about it, it's really, really obvious.
And again, it works so well for the tension of the episode as well. Because now, it's like they just keep piling the things on Charlotte to deal with.
Yeah.
She's dealing with having to look at a man who looks like a husband, who's pretending to be a husband, and then also the horrifying idea that he is going to be masquerading as their dad around her kids.
We even said that scene from the trailer with Devon Sawa in the lift. How can that happen now that the president's dead? But we didn't come up with this, which is clearly Occam's razor, the absolute easiest. And he's the fucking president. Of course he's got a double.
And also, this is the Chucky world. We've had 5 people that look like Devon Sawa already.
True.
Something that people haven't really twigged on yet, that everybody looks like Devon Sawa.
I do wonder if at some point there will be some kind of look at why lots of people look the same in the Chucky universe. Or not. Either way, I'd be happy, because I find it funny that, fuck it, let's just do it. But also, wouldn't it be fun if there was some kind of resolution as to why all these characters and people look the same? Very briefly, we see Michael Theroux in this again.
Oh, yeah, he's coming, yeah.
Only very briefly, but obviously he's advising Randall because Randall hasn't got a fucking clue because he's just a mimic. But Spence is in the White House, and Spence looks remarkably like Lexi's dad. And I would really like to see at some point Spence bump into Lexi and see if anything happens there, because they did a little reference. He reminds me of my dad with the vicar in series 2.
Jake met the president in the Halloween party, but didn't remark on anything.
True.
And also, he's the president, so I'm sure I'm sure Jake was aware who the president was.
Yeah.
But it is odd. You made a very good point there with Spence, though. They should bring in the actress who played Devon's mom. Bring her back.
Oh.
So then all their parents are playing different characters.
That would have been fun, actually, thinking about it. I wonder if they auditioned her, but she didn't get the job.
I don't know. She can always show up again. Who knows?
Nah, Devon's dying, mate. This is your last chance. It's shagged now. You're fucked. Well, he was fucked. But he's fucked now. He's dying.
As brief as that Spence scene was, I did really... there's a little bit to his character. He seems... Again, it's hard to tell. He was a bad guy in the movie. He was a good guy in the show. And it's hard to tell where he lies here, because he's... I don't know how he's playing it. Is it slimy? There's a lot going on. So I guess he's just trying to be, like, as serious as possible. But it's a very strange vibe he's giving in that one scene. Maybe it's just awkward. Maybe that's just how he expresses awkwardness.
When we interviewed Michael, he gave us very little because he wasn't allowed to. But I wonder if this is actually a very, very small role, or we're going to see a fuck ton of Spence in the next episode or 2.
Possibly, yeah. I do believe he is at the seance table in episode 7, so he may have if brief, he may still die, which would be fun.
Oh yeah, we need to kill him. That'd be rude. You can't leave him alive. Who wants to be in a horror teleseries and not get killed? Rude.
Yeah, that's the thing. They brought back Laura Gina's back again. But then at this point now, it seems almost too sad to kill her because she's a real character.
Yeah. So we then have the youngsters coming to the White House, and I have a really bad feeling about this. Thunder, thunder, thunder in the background. I mean, fucking hell, horror tropes. Loved it.
Yeah, really playing on heavy here. Again, this is just, as I said, with Charlotte, like just one more thing that Charlotte has to deal with.
Yeah. But she did actually say it was okay before all the shit hit the fan.
True,
which she subsequently forgot, which is understandable, really. Having a bad day, love.
Yeah, a bit of an understatement, yeah.
And we get another great line from Chucky. I just love a good sequel, don't you? Oh, the nod to the fanboys.
Yeah, it's all coming together. The chaos here.
And then we touched on this, how this is a Lexi-heavy episode.
Yeah.
And like we speculated, mainly because I love, She does like Grant. She is into him, really. I can't remember whether you said you didn't or not, but I suspect because you don't love that you were like, nah, she's not into him.
No, I thought she liked him. Definitely after last episode. I think there was a very genuine sense between them.
And it's interesting that Devon didn't spot it. He's normally particularly perceptive, but I think maybe that's a nod to how, even amongst how close they've become, she still keeps some cards closer to her chest than we realise.
Yeah. There's definitely a lot going on with all three of the actors, and four, including Grant here. You get some good comedy. We could watch the new Marvel. Fucking basic bitch Grant.
I know, right?
He just boasts that he has all the new movies, and then he's like, yeah, let's watch a Marvel movie. And then they suggest a horror movie, which everyone is naturally against by this point. It's surprisingly, though, it is a movie night, but then Mancini doesn't get to throw in a little reference to, like, some kind of horror movie. I kind of thought they'd do that, he'd reference, like, oh, we're going to watch the new horror movie.
I mean, maybe they could have watched Chucky Goes Psycho.
See, yeah, even something like that. We never actually find out what movie they would have watched, because we never really get to movie night.
But we do get a cute couple moment where they sing Don't Fear the Reaper, and it's really, really lovely.
A really nice callback, because we know that's Lexi's, like, favourite song. And they definitely did talk about this. She definitely did talk about it with Grant, that she used to sing that to her sister.
That's actually really thoughtful by Grant.
Yeah.
When he could have picked any song that made him look cool, but he remembered and played the song that he knew she liked.
Yeah, that is absolutely a moment for Grant of, like, this is his almost like I love you. Yeah. It's Jeff definitely real both ways here. And also because last episode there was all the scenes with talking to his bodyguard and his mum about, whether or not he should forgive her. And, this is also I forgive you as a gesture. So yeah, it's definitely nice. And also, just a nice moment to show off young actors' talents. That's definitely Olivia Lind and Jackson Kelly singing. I wonder, is that Jackson Kelly on keys? It seems like it. There's shots where it pans up from his hands to his face.
I mean, if your actor can do that stuff, I would definitely do that. But if he can't, doesn't mean you shouldn't write that scene,
Yeah, they're definitely singing, which is talented enough.
But no kiss, Dev. No kiss.
No.
Fuck you, Mrs. Collins. How dare you interrupt the kiss? And again, love this little nod to this kind of thing happening to the queer couple in the last couple of series. They fucked, so now it's the time for the het couple, innit?
All the people are coming here together. Very funny to have Price in the same scene as the trio. And it's like, again, he's the professional, but he's completely oblivious that the trio also have Chucky.
Yes. So we move on to a very, very tense dinner scene, which, again, was really, really good. And really well done, again, about who knows what and who doesn't. And a pizza cutter for a weapon, really?
Yeah, I noted that. Like, come on, Jake. You pocketed that pizza cutter so obviously.
And also, why the fuck bother? It's a pizza cutter. What are you going to do? Roll someone to death?
I did think that at one point. At the very end, is Chucky going to get, like, his gun arm cut off by a pizza cutter?
Fuck me.
But yeah, this is the peak awkwardness of the scene where everything is coming to a head. And, oh god, poor real wine mom vibes from Charlotte Hare. chugging a big old glass of red wine in front of the kids.
I feel like she can be forgiven in this instance. But again, it's about who knows what, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh god, yeah, and they really grill it up. Because it's not good for anyone.
No.
But it's kind of it's a reference to Grant and James. They have that back and forth in, like, episode 1, I think it is, where Collins' whole presidential campaign is built on transparency, and then Grant is like, well, why can't we be, isn't this about transparency? Why can't we know the truth? And yeah, this is kind of that moment where he's like, well, what is it? Is Dad sick or is he at work? Like, what's the truth, Mom? It's really awkward because, it's true to his character, but then obviously the truth is going to really hurt him.
Yeah, exactly that. Then we get some more great stuff with Charlotte and Randall together. Again, just highlights they got the right actors for the job. Devon Sawa very much plays a completely different character that's just sublime and so different to the president. And like the big cheesy grin and then the orcs and then I like politics, but I'm better at mimicking people. He's just great. It's a great scene and it's a beautifully peculiar situation that's so crisply written, I thought.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, there are lines played for comedy, but it is not a performance played for full-blown comedy. Like, it does not detract from the suspense and the trauma and, the emotions going on in the scene. He is understandably quite awkward in this situation, and he says kind of awkward things, but he's not, I put in my notes, he's a goofball, but he's not a complete idiot. Obviously, he is the man who they hired for this job. He's already, qualified enough. He's just a little bit awkward. Like that fucking when Charlotte is smoking in the hallway, and then he comes through like with a big cheesy grin and waves hi at her. It's like he's not an idiot, but he's a little bit detached from what's happening, and he's trying to come to terms. He says like he feels for her and grieves for the president, and then he sort of starts talking about himself. Yeah. And just a great moment where he starts giving his life story and then turns around and she's just left.
Oh, that was wonderful. That was funny, but also kind of weirdly dark as well, that she just doesn't have the mental capacity to deal with this borderline simpleton compared to the man she wanted that he looks like,
Exactly, yeah. And, but, even a tiny little bit here with Price is still doing his job. And, Charlotte, of course, has to go through this grief, but she doesn't know what the next step is. Price does. She was like, oh, I thought we were just going to say he's a little bit sick. But this makes sense. The president suddenly coming down with something serious and then dying of an illness is a much better story than him being murdered.
Murdered in the White House. Yeah, exactly that. We then get some brutal honesty from Lexi, and I thought this was a major moment and a really fucking superb thing that just worked. Gave me a massive shiver up the spine. And they were just like, yeah, we're going to tell you the truth. We trust you. And again, it just feels a little bit Nadine. Is Grant going to die now that he's in on the shit?
Props to Olivia. Yeah, this is a really pivotal scene. This is like the president dying last episode. This is the scene where everything starts to change. And it works for what we've had, season 3, so many hours of Chucky, where the main characters know what's going on with Chucky, and the other characters don't know what's going on with Chucky, and when are the two going to get on the same page? And in many cases, it's too late, and I love the impulsiveness, because it's not impulsiveness, it is decisiveness. Right here, right now, fuck it, your family is in danger. And she really expresses very cleanly and articulately that I don't want you to get hurt, Grant. I don't want your family to get hurt. So we have to tell you right now.
Yeah. And again, it's a desperation with a huge amount of trust for Grant. And I think he earned that with the Don't Fear the Reaper as well. Maybe she wouldn't have done that if it hadn't been clear that they both like each other and he hadn't put the effort in. Grant really, really gets it right in this episode with Lexi, and I think he's rewarded for it with this, well, unfortunate portent, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that's a fantastic parallel between the Don't Fear the Reaper scene and this, of them solidifying their trust. This is why Mancini headed the episode himself, he's threading the needle on so many different plot points. And even thematically, this is them going truth first, let's get the truth out there, versus Charlotte, who is hiding the truth and trying to bury the truth. You know, the trio have been going through this for years now, having to bury the truth because it's too insane for anyone to understand and believe.
Yeah, I think that's right. And then we get another superb scene where Henry walks in on Randall, and my intake of breath was matched by the horror portrayed by Devon Sawa as Randall. And yeah, it escalates very quickly. My name is fucking Chucky. And yeah, as much as the I want nukes thing is cool, when I thought about it, it did feel a little bit like that was spoiled by the titles.
Well, no, that was teased last episode, wasn't it? When he pulls out the card from
True.
Devon Sawa's body, yeah. So we knew he was trying to do that, but it still was a surprise that it happened so early. This seemed like total finale vibes of him trying to bomb everyone. Really good scene, though. Again, you know, Devon Sawa could have played it for laughs. It's a funny moment when we see him reading the president's book.
Yes,
like
brilliant.
That's a funny moment. But then, yeah, no, he plays it for real when he sees Henry and he's like, obviously you can see on his face that character knows this is a really awkward, hard to navigate moment.
Yeah, exactly. And we then get the lift scene, and what we didn't see in the trailer was just how subtle and cool the animatronics here are. The doll movements are great. The little eye flicks in the background when the guard's back is turned and that sort of thing. Really, really fucking great. And you looked at Series 2, the vast majority of the budget was probably spent on huge amounts of animatronic dolls, lots of them. Whereas it almost feels like everything's gone into this one old Chucky doll rather than having to spread it out across multiple dolls.
Yeah, again, the subtlety works so well in the scene between Randall and Henry. Just the fact that we've seen in the previous dinner scene, he can be completely still, even though he's an old man.
Yes.
But here, it's when Henry comes in, and you can see those little movements of his eyes that he's looking at Randall, and you can tell immediately, like, oh, he's not doing the good guy disguise. He is still awake.
Yeah, really, really nice. And then we get a really kind of horrifying scene where the ghost of James Collins haunts his wife. And I think what's fascinating is we see him traumatized by his death. And we've seen that touched on with stuff like Miss Fairchild. That was a traumatic death, and you saw the flag strangling her. But later on, when, spoilers, you see Chucky's ghost, there's no trauma there. He's happy and ready to be a ghost, whereas all these other ghosts are all over the fucking place. Now that's really fascinating.
Yeah, we're getting closer to these full body apparitions. This is the most we've seen of a ghost.
Yes.
There was a very, very brief flash of Teddy when you see the eyeball, and then there's a brief flash of him shooting himself. And this is the most prolonged we've had, with James standing there. And he is standing there, you know, with his eyeballs. And then there's the shock moment of him dying in his dying state. And yeah, it's kind of horrible, yeah, because we touched upon it, but you don't know yet in this world whether or not the concentration of the White House are the ghosts around the world. Do they not exist, or do they exist but we just can't see them? Are they always in their moment of death, in their scene of death?
Yeah, and I think it is linked to the trauma, because we saw
Absolutely,
Chucky immediately comfortable because he knew his death was coming. He'd come to terms with his death, and immediately afterwards he was like, here we go, Ghost Chucky can fuck people up.
Yeah, I thought we were going to see more, because I thought, that's how we get more of James in the next few episodes, because I thought I didn't think body double, but now we have two Devon Sawers at the same time. I wonder if they'll interact at any point.
That's like the twins all over again, isn't it?
What if that's like the most insane. That'd be the most insane way to fix things if the ghost of James Collins possesses Randall.
Brilliant.
And then we just have the president back.
I mean, we've had possessions, so...
Yeah? That'd be so stupid, but it would work. I would buy that if it happened.
Yeah, absolutely. So then we get to Chucky being incredibly ruthless, like using a gun even though he's not fond of them. The gun speech is a really fun little thing that nods back to how from Bride of Chucky onwards, both him and Tiffany were deliberately trying to make their kills elaborate and fun to do. And, oh my, we then get that vicious pen kill. Just the nastiness of that was sublime.
Yeah. And also, not an inpatient episode. Last episode, we had that kill with the bleach in the drink. And that was a nice moment to show that Chucky was kind of getting tired of murder. But also, like, it felt like, we've got to get a kill in early because this is the premiere. Whereas here, we're so focused on the characters, we're so focused on the story that it doesn't feel like it's been a long time. But yeah, at the end of the episode, we've got 10 minutes left, and the first two people are getting killed, like a guy getting shot in the head and then the pen to the eye. It's good to see that they can do episodes that aren't murder first, that it is really about the characters, and we're willing to, watch these characters just do drama.
Yeah, I think so. It's almost like you'd forgotten that you needed kills in this episode because it was so kind of hit the ground running, plot, 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 holy shit, loads is happening. And then suddenly there was just a shooting, but that's never enough for Don Mancini and the writers of Chucky. If you get something like a shooting or something like that, you're going to get an elaborate kill as well. And boy, oh boy, did the pen to the eye fucking do it.
But also not just murder for the sake of it. It's a really nice, understated moment when Randall covers Henry's eyes. So, that is a great sign where he's not a dumbass. He's a human being.
Oh, absolutely.
It's a moment where he's like, oh, this is a child. He should not see this. And that's a very nice moment for him.
Yeah. And so when Chucky said that he wanted to cause World War III, I was like, wait a minute. Is that enough to please Dan Barla? Even though I knew I'd seen that there was going to be a Chucky ghost, I was like, is this going to be a last-minute save? And there'll be, like, two Chuckies. Chucky ghost and Chucky in a doll still.
We did assume that, yeah. We did assume it was going to be a doll and... Because, again, this is one of those things where, the end of the world, you kind of assume that's going to be the finale. And we kind of assumed that the seance was going to be the finale. So... we did assume that there would be a doll and a ghost at the same time. But it all makes sense.
Yeah. And then, the nasty iris verification thing. It's been done before, but keeping it in your cutie little overalls is grim.
Yeah, I loved Randall's reaction to that. Just like, he's already being held at gunpoint and forced to end the world, but he's just that little moment, he's like, what the fuck is happening?
Exactly that. And... you don't get a lot of what the fuck is happening in Chucky because it just the pace of it all. But that was a really nice little pause moment where he just casually plucks an eye out of his fucking dungarees. Yeah, it was really fun. And oh no, poor Henry finds out that Santa isn't real.
In an episode that doesn't have many jokes because it is drama first, that was a really, really funny moment with, not just, it's a double joke of, Chucky being so comically evil. He wants to nuke the North Pole just to kill the idea of Santa Claus because he's not real. And then off screen you just hear Henry go, what? So dark, so funny. So just a nice little moment where it's like, everyone else gets those little nice drama moments because they are human beings in this world, and Chucky gets to have these ridiculous moments because he is ridiculous.
Yeah, exactly that. And again, you could say it's the most evil thing he's ever done.
Possibly, yeah. And is a testament to how long Chucky has been around, because if this was like Child's Play 2 or Child's Play 3, I think people would be like, oh, this is stupid. This is too far. This is too much. But we've been with Chucky so long now, it's like, yeah, this is in line with Chucky. This is how far he tries to take it.
Yeah, exactly that. And then, well, Chucky dies.
Yeah, well, yeah, there's a lot happening here. Everyone comes into one scene together. The trio, Grant, they come down. Again, Lexi gets some great moments in this episode. You delusional, nuked up ginger.
Wonderful.
You can't do much to hurt Chucky at this point, but her barbs are just so perfect. I feel like that still stung Chucky a little bit. But then, even Chucky gets one back, where it's like, take another step, Little Caesar, and I'll blow that haircut right off your stupid little head.
Brilliant. And I have to admit, my prediction for Chucky's last words would not have been, fuck Santa.
Yeah, ridiculous.
Wonderful. Fuck Santa. And I love it. I want to go back to his death, though. Why did he fade away like a Buffy vampire?
Yeah, it was interesting that.
It feels like it's highlighting that it's a different death to all the other previous deaths for Chucky, where essentially he got mutilated to fuck every time. Whereas this one, there is no Chucky left. He fades away and his body becomes dust. But it was so Buffy, didn't you not think?
I didn't think Buffy. I didn't think anything, really. I guess my first thought to people fading away, I think Avengers has sort of taken that over in terms of people getting dusted.
Well, maybe that's an age thing. Maybe I associate it with Buffy, but you would associate it with Endgame.
Yeah, no, I definitely think it's a case of finality. And maybe even something from Dumbala. Because we've seen, case in point, the very first sequel, Child's Play 2, they rebuilt Chucky with the same body. And then Child's Play 3, the blood from that body went into a new doll. So there is, I guess, the belief that, if Chucky gets shot and dies, and then it's just the body sitting there, there's no reason why another incantation could bring that doll back to life. This is like Dumbala, or maybe even just Mancini, saying like, no, that doll is gone. Like, as far as we know, there are no more dolls.
Yeah.
So that is the last doll. Again, in the sort of teasers, we know that John Waters has a doll, so I'm guessing that is the finale. But the fact that next episode of The Seance, there isn't going to be a Chucky doll, is there? It's going to be old ghost stuff, which really hammers down that finality of Chucky as we know it is dead.
Yeah, and I think that was a deliberate move to show a very, very different death. Of almost more final death. I always come back. How the fuck do you come back if everything about you has dissipated into the air?
Yeah.
And it does also highlight something. How the fuck will they find Caroline? There is no one that knows where she is now other than, well, Caroline.
Yeah, it's a good reason they brought that up in the episode. Obviously, it was no mistake to bring that up. And it's a nice little moment for Lexi where she earns Grant's trust. They do bond together. It seems, official, them two as a thing. But then, she loses out because she doesn't get any info out of Chucky about Caroline.
Yeah.
And it's a horrible moment as well because, she's trying to, in this very moment, trying to save Chucky, even though he's trying to bomb 3 different countries.
Yeah. Well, 2 big countries and Santa.
I assume there's people on the North Pole, in terms of like just workers, scientists and stuff.
True.
People live up there.
Yeah, you're right. There will be some people that will get taken out by it. And also, the fallout might go as far as like indigenous Inuit people, maybe?
Possibly, yeah. Yeah, there's probably going to be some real...
And those fucking polar bears, Dev.
And the polar bears, yeah.
I don't want dead polar bears. It even showed the fucking missile going past polar bears. And I was like, no, not the polar bears. You can kill lots of people, but not fucking polar bears. People aren't an endangered species.
Yeah, it feels very deliberate that we saw that go off. It could have just been, all 3 bombs were aborted, Chucky failed. It definitely feels like Chucky got something out of this. Yeah. Or, there was some lasting impact from this.
Yeah. And then we've obviously discussed this already in this episode, and we discussed it when we saw it on the trailer. The last thing you see is Chucky's ghost.
Yeah. Again, another big trailer moment, and not in the context we knew. We knew, Chucky's going to come back, but we didn't know if it was going to be the seance. We didn't know how, when it was going to happen. Episode 5 was the death of the president, which was completely unexpected. And again, now the death of Chucky, the doll, in episode 6. It's definitely really throwing us for a loop what these last couple episodes are going to be.
Yeah, and I can't wait. I mean, I know we've only got a week to wait, which is good, but I think we're used to a world where all the episodes for something drop at the same time, particularly with American shows as British people. If you don't have access to Sky TV, quite a lot of the time, your first access to something, even if other people had the experience of watching it episodically on their cable telly or whatever you want to call it, a lot of the time, because of Netflix and Amazon Prime and all those subscription services, for British people, the binge is a big thing, and I really enjoy the experience of getting to watch something weekly, and it's nice to see Disney Plus are doing that for some other shows as well. X-Men 97, holy fucking shit. Oh my goodness, X-Men 97 is as good as Chucky. Sorry, I said it. But yeah, we got to wait a week.
Yeah. Oh yeah, on that binge note, yeah. I've seen that on Twitter and stuff. The new Fallout show just came out, and that was dropped in one go. And a lot of people say, I've read articles where people are like, oh, it's a shame that the whole discussion about this season is going to be done in about a week, and then people are going to move on. And then, a lot of people in the comments are like, what the fuck? Like, no, we love binging. Like, we don't want to go back to once a week. That's terrible. But I like once a week. I think that lets you really focus on each episode.
I don't feel like we could have done this show if it was a Netflix, all the episodes in one go drop. And so, thank you for that, Chucky people. Good. And maybe you and I should do an X-Men 97 podcast. Oh, shit, Dev. Are you enjoying X-Men 97, or is it just me?
I don't have Disney Plus, so...
Oh, what? Mate, it is worth the subscription just for that one.
I hear it
is the best thing Marvel has done. I'm going to say ever. Like ever, including Endgame, including Captain Marvel, all the fucking massive hits, the perfect stuff. No, this is the best thing they've ever done. And maybe this is my nostalgia talking. I clearly like ongoing franchises that last forever and ever and ever and ever, because I'm doing a podcast about fucking Chucky. But X-Men 97, Dev. Right, if you're a Chucky Vision fan and you're watching X-Men 97 as well, fucking message me. I want to talk about it so much. Just the best thing on telly, the second best thing on telly, equal best thing on telly right now. I don't know where that tangent came from, other than my brain of loving X-Men 97. Dev, have I missed anything that you want to talk about Chucky before I continue to blither about X-Men 97?
No, we've hit all the big notes. We've definitely hit all the big notes. I think Price definitely had a lot of funny lines in this, a lot of interesting lines. I liked Charlotte just straight up said his reference point when she said, "Stop cosplaying G. Gordon Liddy." Which,
yeah.
Come on, that was the reference. You don't have to say it, but it's still funny.
Yeah, Chucky's always been very meta in that way, isn't it? And I was there for it. I liked it. I saw it and I was like, okay.
I liked his line at the end when everything's going down and Randall has a moment to actually abort the nukes and stop all this. And I like Price just standing there, abort, motherfucker. Like he really has to push him to do it. Again, and then the thing we didn't touch upon, because it's more a tease for next episode, but he has that. I don't have it with me. He mentions a doctor in Duke University that is going to come from the paranormal division.
Yeah, and it wasn't the same doctor, wasn't it? The other doctor
it's
had a different name.
And he says there are divisions in this government you know nothing about.
A little bit fucking X-Files, that, innit?
But again, it's that world expansion, like with Dr. Rosen. Like,
yes,
this world, Chucky may not be the first of his kind, and may not be as unique as he thinks he is. This world has adapted to magic, and it definitely seems like religion is sort of real in this world, so the world has sort of adapted to it.
I'm calling it Killer Teddy Bear. I know I've already called it, but Killer fucking Teddy Bear. It's what the world wants.
Oh, on that note about the government, this is kind of a big episode because everybody knows about Chucky now.
True.
So, not only the trio, but everyone. So, Andy, Kyle, even Karen, wherever she may be, everybody connected to Chucky now can be written off as innocent.
Yes and no. They will cover it up, I think. But
oh, yeah, the truth is not out there. It's very much going to be covered up by the government.
But it does give us a option to have these people brought in as consultants, like acknowledging that this is true and go, holy shit, Andy was right, let's bring him in, fucking tool him up as a Mulder and Scully, and get his mom, she can be fucking Scully, and... yeah, this is fascinating for future seasons, that we might see, like, government agents dealing with this kind of shit, and it could be legacy characters. I got a bit excited there.
Yeah, I don't know if the government angle will be overly present, but it does set a precedent. Like, you know, as we saw in season 1, Andy and Kyle going around the country, brutally killing all the Chucky doubles. Now they can get away with it, but it's not perfect because obviously they will still, you know, if they're going around shooting dolls, they will still get arrested by police, and that could, you know, go on to a federal level. They still have to, here's this number, call the government, we're fine. They're not going to be covered completely. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. But it is a fascinating thing where it does mean maybe not exonerate, but utilize legacy characters. Jesse and Jade could be back. We could see more Andy in the next series. Kyle, obviously. Dare I say it, Tyler.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. Everyone is definitely going to be exonerated, at the very least, but further involvement, we'll have to see. We'll have to see any kind of direct participation.
Yeah.
Because who knows what's going to happen after this anyway, because at the end of it, we go meet John Waters, there's one more Chucky doll. What happens then? We have no idea what the setup for season 4 is going to be.
Devon is going to be in Chucky. Well, Tommy. You know what I mean. The Child's Play doll. The fucking good guy doll, even.
We didn't know what the setup for season 3 was going to be at the end of season 2. So, it's still going to be a surprise.
That's true. Good point. But Dev, what a fucking episode. We've only got 2 more left.
Oh, yeah. And it seems certain enough that next episode will be the seance, and episode 4 will be the John Waters focus. But, you know, we didn't know the president was going to die. We didn't know Chucky was going to die. So there are still plenty of surprises in store for us.
Absolutely. Right, very briefly, Dev, where can people find you on the internet?
People can find me at Absolute Travesty on Twitter. I regularly write written retrospectives of different movies and stuff. You can find me there. You
can find me on @MarkAdamsHC on Twitter and Instagram. My Twitter is much more everything focused, whereas my Instagram is focused on my job as a celebrant, which means I very rarely update it. So yeah, Twitter's probably the best place for me. I've got other podcasts, but you know about those by this point. So until next week, when we're looking at season 3, episode 7, the penultimate episode of season 3 of Chucky. Until then, Wanna play?
CHUCKYVISION is a podcast brought to you by the We Made This network.
Follow us on Twitter at CHUCKYVISION.
Follow the network on Twitter at we_made_this.
The logo was designed by Elliot Marriott.
Our cover art was designed by Amma at Amma's Comet.
And the theme tune was composed by Dark Fantasy Studios.
Wanna play?
100 years since Nosferatu first terrified audiences on the big screen.
30 years since Francis Ford Coppola gave us Bram Stoker's Dracula.
And 10 years since Dark Shadows with Johnny Depp.
Vampire Videos is a podcast taking a look at this iconic blood-sucking monster on film and television.
I'm Dan Owen.
And I'm Hugh McStay.
And we're here to guide you through a century of vampirism on film. From Hollywood's golden age with Bela Lugosi as Count Dracula,
to the more lurid hammer horrors of the 60s and 70s starring Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee.
Through to the 80s boom in vampires, which brought these creatures of the night into the modern age.
And everything this century's had to offer us, from foreign and independent films, spoof comedies, and even teenage love stories. Yes, I'm talking about Twilight.
We aim to cover it all, one bite at a time.
So join us on a voyage into the depths of vampire cinema, old and new, with weekly guests offering their own insights and expertise. And why not follow us on Twitter at Vamp Videos?
A proud part of the We Made This podcast network. Subscribe now to Vampire Videos, and thanks for listening.